My name is Cora. I'm 27 years old, and I learned the hard way that betrayal doesn't always kick the door down. Sometimes it changes the lock while you're at work and sends you a text about it. The morning everything unraveled felt painfully ordinary. I gulped down coffee that was too hot, tossed my keys into my bag, and rushed out the door of a house that never quite felt like mine. Even though $1,200 left my account every single month to keep a room inside it. I told myself I was being smart, that moving back home was temporary, strategic, responsible. That's what my father had called it. You'll save money. Funny how expensive saving money can be. I was halfway through my shift when my phone buzzed. Just a small vibration against my desk. I almost ignored it. I wish I had. But I glanced down and saw my mother's name glowing on the screen, followed by a message that hollowed me out in a single breath. Your room is your sister's now. Come get your stuff from the lawn. I read it once, twice, a third time, convinced exhaustion had twisted the words into something harsher than reality. But the letters didn't rearrange themselves. They sat there cold and deliberate, like they had been drafted, reviewed, and approved. Around me, the office kept moving. Printers hummed. Someone laughed near the break room. Phones rang. But my world had tilted, and I was gripping the edge of my desk like the floor might slide out from under me. I didn't call. I didn't respond. Pride sealed my mouth shut, but beneath the shock something steadier was forming. Something that wasn't panic. I finished my shift in a blur, replaying every bank transfer I had ever made to my father. Every month, $1,200, plus groceries, plus utilities, plus the time I paid for the water heater repair because family helps family. I had not been a guest. I had been funding that house. And yet somehow, I was the one disposable enough to be boxed up and set outside like clutter. When I pulled onto the street that evening, I saw my life scattered across the lawn before I even turned off the engine. Clothes in garbage bags, books stacked crookedly, a framed photo cracked at the corner, the quilt my grandmother made folded carelessly on the grass. Neighbors tried not to stare. A few didn't bother pretending. And there it was, shining in the late afternoon light like the final punctuation mark, a new lock on the front door. My key meant nothing now. I stood there for a long moment, strangely calm. Anger had burned too hot to explode. What remained was clarity. They hadn't just pushed me out. They had documented their choice in broad daylight. They didn't come outside. No apology slipped through the curtains. No explanation followed. Just silence. I gathered my things piece by piece, loading them into my car with a kind of quiet precision. Not crying, not begging, just closing something that clearly had already been closed for me. When I drove away, my hands trembled not from sadness, but from realization. They thought this was the end. They thought I would absorb the humiliation and disappear. They thought the story ended with a new lock. Instead of driving to a motel or a friend's couch to fall apart, I drove to the courthouse. The building was fluorescent and indifferent, which was exactly what I needed. Indifference doesn't gaslight you. Indifference reads documents. I laid out my payment history. Every transfer. Every receipt. The clerk's expression didn't change, but mine did. With every form I signed, something inside me steadied. Dignity doesn't always shout. Sometimes it signs paperwork. Sometimes it waits. The next few days felt suspended, like I was holding a secret storm. My parents didn't reach out. No guilt. No second thoughts. Just that same arrogant quiet. They expected me to return embarrassed and compliant. They expected obedience. They didn't expect process. They didn't expect documentation. They didn't expect the law to care that I had been treated like a tenant without rights after years of financial contribution. By Friday morning, I was sitting at my friend's kitchen table staring into coffee that had gone cold when my phone rang. My sister's name flashed across the screen. I answered. Her voice was shaky. Cora, what did you do? There was panic underneath it. There's a sheriff here. Mom's crying. Dad looks like he can't breathe. I didn't say anything at first. I didn't need to. I could picture it. The knock at the door. Firm, official, unemotional. The sheriff wasn't there to argue. He didn't need to. The paperwork did that. Illegal eviction, tenant rights, financial records. Words my parents had never bothered to learn because they assumed family meant immunity. My sister whispered that dad said I embarrassed the family. The irony almost made me laugh. Embarrassment. Such a delicate word for throwing your daughter's belongings onto the lawn and changing the locks while she was at work. What they meant was control. They were embarrassed they had lost it. The sheriff's presence didn't just challenge their decision, it dismantled the illusion that they could redefine reality with a text message. My contributions had weight. My displacement had consequences. Silence wasn't weakness. It was preparation. When the call ended, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt balanced. Not vindictive. Just steady. They changed the locks thinking that was power. But power isn't a new key. Power is knowing your rights and refusing to shrink. I don't know what happens next. Maybe there will be mediation. Maybe apologies. Maybe more distance. But what I do know is this. I walked away from that lawn humiliated, and I walked into a courthouse composed. I answered cruelty with process. I answered dismissal with documentation. And when the knock came at their door, it wasn't fueled by rage. It was carried by consequence. If there's anything this carved into me, it's that you should never confuse silence with surrender. And you should never assume the person you tried to lock out doesn't know how to knock back properly, legally, and without raising their voice.